Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Milsim Units Podcast. I'm your host, C. Brock, and with me here tonight we have a handful of soldiers from the 75th Ranger Regiment. That includes Colonel Brewer,
Hello.
Colonel ThaChosen,
Hey, what's going on?
Lieutenant Colonel Ranger,
Get off.
Major Doom,
Hello.
Captain Efrideet,
Hello.
Captain Strider,
Evening.
and Command Sergeant Major DocWallace.
Howdy, folks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to have you with us here on our next Milsim Units podcast. We're just getting this thing started here, and we're happy to have you with us here tonight. So, kind of, make the introductions and get our audience more familiar with all you. Let me start with you, Colonel Brewer. What can you tell me about what inspired you to get started in Milsim, and what are you doing here in the 75th Rangers?
So what really inspired me, I guess, to take it back to probably 2011, 2012 was whenever I got my first taste in Milsim. I got into, NavCom back on Halo Reach. And that was my kind of first taste into the world of Milsim. And from then I've ever been hooked. I was on Halo Reach for a year or two. Then GTA 5 or GTA Online came out. I did that for a little bit since that was, at the time, I was a console gamer, and that's really all we had on console until DayZ came out. DayZ came out in, I think, 2017, 2018. Got into that for a couple years. And then, like I said, Reforger finally came out, and once Reforger came out, I was hooked. So I've been on Reforger ever since it came out.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, you've really run the gamut here, Milsim. Going from the console community up through the PC and kind of mixed platform community. Sounds like you got a pretty long and storied history.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, this is 75th hasn't been around or been around since most units. We just hit our 2-year anniversary, November 15th, about 2 weeks ago. So still pretty new in the world of Milsim.
That's pretty cool. Happy anniversary, guys.
Thank you.
All right, now let me move to you, Colonel ThaChosen. Tell me about your history in Milsim and where you are now in the 75th.
I've been here with the 75th. Got here almost a month after we started, I think. We all came from another place, knew a couple of guys. It was familiar territory. Once we all started together, we all kind of filtered in over. Good brotherhood, camaraderie, just like the people. Overall, have our ups, we have our downs, just a brotherhood, It's just familiar, once you get out the military, some of us, we try to find structure, we look for structure. If you know a lot of vets and people that's first responders, a lot of us, we look into video games. We use it as a coping mechanism, and it's kind of where I found myself and many others like me. And here I am, almost 2 years later, still with the 75th, so fucking love it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, seasoned vet of the unit. Definitely, camaraderie goes a long way. It's not something you see every day in every group. Certainly not in online gaming, but there's definitely there's a thing about that that is one of the kind of unique aspects of Milsim gaming. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now let me move to Major Doom. Tell me about yourself. How'd you get started in Milsim? What are you doing these days in the 75th Rangers?
So the 75th is actually my first Milsim. I came from adminning DayZ community, pretty large one when I first came over to Arma Reforger, and I came over because of a mod. Played that mod, and it was a PvP based mod, and I had no experience with the game, so I was like, you know what, let's go play some PvE. And I found one of the 75th, I believe it was Second Bat's public server at the time. And I went and played there for maybe a week. And it didn't take more than that. And I instantly was like, this is one of the coolest just communities I'd found in gaming. The fact that there's tactical operations and information being shared on a tactical level in a public operation blew my mind. When I first tuned into the radio, and I was like, I could barely understand what I was hearing. Again, I come from a civilian background. I work in the medical industry, but I've always been a big supporter of military personnel, veterans. I used to work for a company that worked with vets, disabled vets. We used to take them snowmobiling and snowboarding where I live. So I've always had a soft spot in my heart for vets. And so, like I said, when I found this community, I was just blown away. I instantly, after a week of playing, I jumped on to the ticket system, and I was like, hey, how do I get involved with the private servers? I came in as a private, as a 31 Bravo military police, and I just fell in love with it. Like you said, the camaraderie you can find here is, I didn't expect to find people I now consider friends after a year of speaking with them and playing games with them. So I was really blown away, and it's just had me hooked now. And so I'm the Regimental S2 OIC, so I run the security and intel department. I mainly focus on private server issue investigations, whether it be anything spanning from poaching from within our Milsim for other units, sexual harassment, any type of harassment in general, doxing, all sorts of bad behavior comes through my office. I'm one of the only people in the regiment that is taking advantage of our ability to IP ban people. So when we have bad actors that need to be removed, I can fully remove them to the point that they can't get anywhere near any of our servers. In my capacity as Regimental S2, I have about 65 people working underneath me. 8 to 10 of which are billeted S2 positions within the other battalions that report directly to me. So, like I said, I came here with no military experience, no Milsim experience, and I fell in love with it. I took every class I could, from leadership to 11 Bravo, kicking in doors and shit. Even though I was a 31 Bravo, I just wanted to suck it all up. So I've done the NCO route. I was top 5 of our headquarters battalion at one point during my tenure. I was the operations sergeant major, and after that was when I moved into my current role with regiment. So I've done a little bit of everything within this Milsim.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. Definitely, I was going to say, it sounds like you kind of you worked your way up from, like you said, starting as a private, going up through the enlisted chain and into the commissioned life as an 04 now, and being S2 at that. Definitely, it sounds like you've seen it all. So that's pretty cool. I bet you got some stories to tell regarding your history in the unit.
Interested.
Yeah, that's awesome. I bet you've seen it all for sure. All right, so Captain Efrideet. Now I know she is actually at work. She bounces, many things, wears many hats. But I'm hoping we can get a few words about you and what got you inspired in Milsim, and how you ended up serving as a captain here in the 75th.
I guess my career started back in like 2012-ish. Yeah, 2012-ish. On Halo Reach, Halo 3 time, and a little bit of Battlefield. I was probably about 11 then, and so I've been in it through my whole teenage life, through my young adult life. I'm currently 23. I've been doing back and forth on Halo, Battlefield, Arma, DayZ a little bit when I was playing on console. I bounced around, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I did a little bit of JRTC in high school, and it really kicked my interest off in the U.S. Army. I do look to serve here in the next little bit once I get my weight down to where it needs to be. But my tenure here in the regiment as a whole, I came in same way Major Doom did. As about a month before he did, I came in as a private, worked my way up through the MPs up until I hit first sergeant, and then I transferred into 3rd Battalion as their CSM. Served there for about 5 to 6 months, and then I transferred here into 2nd Battalion as their executive officer to kind of give them a support system that they didn't have. And then all through that time, since I became I would say since I became a first sergeant, I was working with the S16 directly for the regiment side of things. It only very recently started to take up the recruiting side of the recruiting aspect. Now, I do believe that with them having a direct charge over that, it has made recruiting a lot more structured here in the battalion or in the regiment. And then had something in my mind. Apologies. Yeah, I do believe we're getting that up and running to its fullest ability, getting people in place. And then S6 altogether encompasses your combo cards for the unit. It's going to be like all that radio communication and chatter that you might hear in the public servers. If we have any of our 75th Rangers in there, you're also going to hear a lot of people use the term RTO, radio transmission operator. We oversee that program. We oversee them getting the training for that. And that's about it that I've done here. I've had a full-fledged Milsim career.
Outstanding. You definitely. It sounds like you're very talented. Got a range of experiences here. And that being said, I really appreciate you taking the time to get on with us here tonight. Given your wealth of experience and all the kind of work that you do to make the operations in the 75th a success. Definitely, it's no easy task, and I mean, just with these first few introductions here already, you can see how much energy, how much time and talent these people put into making this unit a success. And I mean, it goes without saying, we're going to get more into that here momentarily, but. With that being said, let me wrap up the introductions here because we got a couple more soldiers here on the line. Captain Strider, let me hear about you, your background in Milsim and your experiences in the 75th.
Yeah, so funny thing is this is my first Milsim as well, but I am a total nerd when it comes to military operations and history, as I'm also a military brat, unfortunately. And it just delved into the rabbit hole, basically. Had a buddy of mine who was actually was part of the 3rd Ranger Battalion, and he actually got me into and introduced me to Arma, and then he said, "Hey, there's also Milsims," and I was like, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, go check out the public Discord and look at what they do and and they, luckily enough, they were doing an operation, and it was very very on point, and me just coming in as a random, I was able to go in with a team that were just open and willing and run with them. So I'll carry on with that. So I am the S3 for our STB, so Special Troops Battalion, which holds 10th SFG, also 24th STS, and then 160th SOAR. Pretty interesting stuff when it comes to that, because they are very self-sufficient, but we do a lot of special operation missions during our deployments, helping out with the Rangers, and so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure I think I missed a chunk of what you wanted me to say. Oh, how I started. Yeah, so like with that being said, though, started out as a private, obviously. Went to Bushmaster in 2nd Battalion. Gunslinger, has an RTO. Loved being an RTO. RTO was awesome. The stress of it, the pure excitement. It was very, very well kept. The training was really, really good because we were actually taught by IRL RTOs that were either prior or during. Then got the opportunity to become an officer and take up the S3 shop as a battle captain for them. Did that for a few months, and then ever since then I've been with STB. But yeah.
Outstanding. One of my mottos, or I guess my maxims as a Milsimer was, it's one thing to be able to shoot and move, but if you can't communicate, man, you're going to let your buddies down, and you're going to suffer in the mission. So definitely those three. If you can nail those three, man, you are golden in the battle space.
100%. Shoot, move, communicate.
Yep, you got it. All right, and now, last but not least, we move on to one of the 75th
I think you forgot
senior.
I think you forgot our operations officer, Lieutenant Colonel Ranger.
Oh, Lieutenant Colonel, how could I forget the Ranger himself? All right, thank you for that correction, sir. Ranger, let me hear from you. Tell me about your background in Milsim, and what are you doing nowadays as XO here in the 75th?
He's the operations officer.
Or operations officer, excuse me.
Well, this is actually my first Milsim. I did almost 4 years running with a crew playing Daisy. My son actually told me to to download it, tried it, so I did, and made it out an application. This December 30th, I will be in this Milsim 2 years. I came in a month and a half after it started, and I'm here ever since. I came in as 11 Bravo. I was a grenadier in Assassin Company, 2nd Ranger Battalion. Moved my way up to PSG, platoon leader. Made my way up to XO, then company commander for Assassin. Then moved my way up through battalion and became battalion commander for 2nd Ranger Battalion. Then I did that.
I think he was a battalion commander for about 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, 8 or 9 months as battalion commander. And then I just figured my wealth of knowledge and IRL experiences could serve better at regiment, so I stepped down, moved up to regiment. My background is I'm a defense contractor and law enforcement. I'm a school resource officer. I've got numerous certificates, basically from fighting from a vehicle, long-range tactical day-night shooting, hostage situation, breach sweep and clear, active shooter, counterterrorism. So I try to bring, my knowledge into the Milsim as much as it'll adequate it, for to instruct the individuals on proper procedures on how to handle themselves during certain situations, and as operations officer of the regiment, I oversee the operations and trainings. I work closely with all the battalion commanders and their S3 shops, make sure that their trainings are going properly. If they have any questions, my door is always open. Answer them to the best of my ability. I also get with all the battalions, which we have a deployment cycle, which I was ecstatic when that was initiated. It's basically, a red cycle training for 2 weeks, readiness training for 2 weeks, and then deployment for 2 weeks, and then it's rotated out to the next battalion and so on. So I work along with them, make sure that everybody's got what they need, make sure their asset requests are put in properly, and that's about it. And if I'm not mistaken, I am the oldest person in the Milsim. I'm 60 years old.
Well, Lieutenant Colonel, you got a load of resources, no pun intended here, that you're bringing here to the unit. So that really is outstanding. Glad to hear that, you're so active in real life, but also that's translating to the experience here in the unit. So looking forward to hear more about that. Now, last but not least in our introductions here, we get to the one of the senior enlisted advisors here in the regiment, and that is Command Sergeant Major Wallace. Welcome to the podcast, Command Sergeant Major. Tell us about your experience in Milsim and how you got started and what you're doing nowadays in 75th Rangers.
Boy, the stories I could tell you. Hope you're ready. Anyway, I started simming in a semi-sim environment probably when I was 17 years old. I was, back in those days, it was just Halo 3 and Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, so it was a very different world back then, got to meet a lot of old cats that, that knew a thing or two, told a couple war stories, right? Well, I ended up being involved with this community called KSI. It was a KSI Global Gaming Network. I served as a senior director there for nearly 3 or 4 years, and I was working on trying to get these guys to understand that, you know, we could do more than just Call of Duty and just Halo. There are other spheres that we expanded into, in which they were pretty open-minded about starting to rent servers on Battlefield once that became a thing for our player bases. So I learned a lot of my administrative capabilities came from that community, as you could say. I stepped out of that for a while. I kind of, you know, I got to a point to where I was just kind of getting tired of things, how things were being ran. Generations were changing, mindsets were changing. I ended up basically in a state of limbo for a while, as you will. Hanging out with my friends for several years, just casually gaming, sitting here talking. We thought about doing our own thing, but then things never kind of took off. So that I had decided to kind of do some soul searching. You know, I wanted to be a part of an environment, not just a community, but an actual sim environment to learn some of the things that, you know, my old man, because he was a active duty veteran. His last operation he was in was Operation Desert Storm. A lot of the military culture I learned from him because him, my uncle, and their best friend, they went in and proudly served under Reagan whenever they all went in together. And their best friend also had some time as a former sergeant major himself. And, you know, sometimes at my own dinner table, you got like somewhere right around 30 plus years of military experience at the table sometimes. So, you know, you kind of learn a lot with the people you're around. I ended up, I was in the pubs once I got Arma Reforger because the guy, I don't know if you know him or not, goes by the name of Karma Cut.
Yep.
I watched a lot of his videos, and I was watching how they were doing their operations and how they did these things that were revolutionary on Arma 3. I was like, man, you know, I really wish I could do something like this on console. Well, lo and behold, here came Reforger, almost out of nowhere, honestly, when they announced it. I mean, nobody expected it at the time. And once I got involved with Reforger, I'd say about a year or so after it came out, I ended up running into these guys, and I fell into one of the 75th servers and played around, got to meet some people for about 2 weeks, and then I decided I was going to sign up for the unit. Very first RASP I participated in, LTC Ranger there, he was a RASP instructor. He was my platoon sergeant back in the day that picked me out and had me go over to Demon Platoon. I'm the last of only, I'd say about 25 people that was in my class. There's only about 2 of us left standing. And from there on, that's basically what started, you know, my involvement. And when I came into the 75th, I literally knew next to nothing about tactical combat, you know, the operational scale of things. Like you know, all my prior experience, except for the administrative perspective, I had to throw it all out the window. I eventually worked myself up into a team lead in known assassin company inside Demon Platoon. Once this happened, I don't know if it was either my PSG or what the situation was. I just wasn't enjoying myself at some point, and in fact, I was almost contemplating on leaving. And then at the time, my commander at the time, well, my old platoon sergeant, became the company commander of Assassin Company. He said, "Hold on, just give me a couple days. Let me talk to some people." So he came to me and he told me, he said, "Well, how would you like to come up to be my command control security clerk?" Which was, you know, a little unorthodox at the time, but eventually we ended up establishing the very first company clerk that the unit ever seen, and I happened to be that person. So my responsibility there was to keep track of all the paperwork and all the processes of the LOA, you know, leave of absences, you know, in documental form, so that there was proper accountability instead of it being a simple he said, she said handshake scenario. So that was something a lot of people appreciated, and a lot of people around the unit started wanting to do this stuff. So they thought, hey, this is a good idea. Well, it's something that's still utilized today. From there on, as a clerk, one day I woke up, after going to, I think it was my second or my third battalion command meeting, Colonel Brewer himself there, he said that I was the only one there who was able to show up to the Assassin Company, provide a full report, everything that they needed. And he asked me at the end of the meeting, said, "How come you weren't a first sarge yet?" I said, "I don't know, sir. I don't make those kind of decisions. I'm just here to provide feedback and intelligence to my commander based on what he needs to know." He's like, "Intriguing." So I literally wake up the next morning. There I was, a first sergeant. Never was a squad leader. Never was a platoon sergeant. So I missed out a lot of experience. I literally had to learn on the go because some high speed, really moving to high speed at that time. But I was accustomed to it. I was used to it. I had the mind to be able to sit there and handle it because, I'm about to be, again, I started when I was 17, like I told you. I'm going to be 35 next year. I've been involved with the community aspect of gaming for a very, very long time. And from there on, me and at the time would have been Captain Ranger. His company was only ran by a clerk and the commander because the first sergeant was having problems, and then the XO wasn't there. But we did extraordinarily well thanks to his help, and I'd like to think in the same way, thanks to my help, is what propelled us into future battalion leadership positions. And I became a command sergeant major of 3rd Ranger Battalion, and I was the longest lasting member of the original top 5 who stayed there until I finally decided it was time for myself to also move the regiment once the time was right. Stayed there for about 9 months as their CSM, and got to meet a lot of people, got to help set a lot of standards. And then once I elevated up to regiment, the biggest thing that was going on with us is that we were at one point, it was one battalion does things their own way, we're going to do ours another, but it wasn't unified. And what I mean by you being unified means you come forward and think of the NCOs as a whole, the junior enlisted as a whole. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you think of another person. We should be trying to provide all the tools and the essentials available to us to provide to these individuals who come here to learn, who want to actually foster this culture, and that's where mentorship programs comes in. The regimental CSM in general as a whole is it's vital to every function that is a part of the sphere of influence. It doesn't matter if you're a battalion or a regiment CSM, but something else that is also just as important, if not more important, is to constantly advise our junior officers all the way up to our attached commander on issues and matters. You are a vital part of the process of keeping the glue together, if you will. Fostering a strong leadership culture is crucial in being successful as an NCO, because this also ties into the morale of our enlisted. This is one of our cornerstones of our core values and principles of leadership: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity. And my personal principles I personally follow is structure, discipline, accountability, unity, and growth. These, I believe, are the fundamental cornerstones of the NCO Corps. My role is to be the direct pipeline to both colonels, really in providing interpretation of what the NCOs and junior enlisted are thinking based on biweekly reports. This helps our unit commander better understand the climate as each change and our shift occurs.
Outstanding. Well, you mentioned your long experience in Milsim, your mind for detailed analysis and leadership, but you also brought the backbone, and that's really an absolute necessity for any NCO, and definitely for a senior leader within the Corps. So, ladies and gents, what we have here is really a very hardcore group of seasoned Milsim veterans from a variety of different experiences, real life and in gaming. But really a very unique community, just based on what we've learned here from this handful of leaders here. So, we mentioned earlier about how the 75th just celebrated its second year anniversary a couple of weeks ago. I'm curious about learning more, behind the scenes in terms of how 75th Rangers formed, and what it looked like when it all started 2 years ago.
I can take this over.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so back when we did start November 15th, 2022, we started just as a platoon. I've always been a strong believer in whenever you build a house, whenever you build a unit or a community, a foundation, you always start with the foundation, the groundwork first. And I've never been a big fan of starting. I wasn't the regiment commander or battalion commander when we first started. I was just a lowly second lieutenant platoon leader when we first started the unit. And back then we weren't the 75th. We were the 2nd Ranger Battalion, more specifically the Alpha Company or Assassin Company 2nd Ranger Battalion. And I was just in charge of one platoon in there. And then over a couple of weeks, we slowly grew that platoon into an entire company because, like I said, we had a very popular public server and we had a very popular private server. And the whole thing was people were like, hey, we would do operations in our public server, but we'd also do operations in our private servers. And the thing that we would tell people is like, hey, you like how organized these operations are in our public server, why don't you come over to our private server? And that was the way we'd hook people and get a lot of people interested. So over time, we had some very popular public servers, and just a lot of people would see how organized we were in our public servers and would come over and join us on the private side of things by joining the unit. Like I said, eventually grew from that platoon after a couple weeks into an entire company. So we were Alpha Company or Assassin Company, 2nd Ranger Battalion. I think it took another month or two. We grew that company into a. I think we had 4 or 5 platoons in that company at one point. So the entire company was bulging, and I was like, man, I think we got to create a battalion. So we grew from a company into a battalion. And like I said, back then it was 2nd Ranger Battalion. So I think probably February or March, probably February or March 2023, we created 2nd Ranger Battalion, officially fulfilling the entire battalion. And that was Assassin Company and Bushmaster Company, so ACO and BCO, 2nd Ranger Battalion. I was the battalion commander for the first couple months. I was a major, running things as a kind of a smaller battalion. But like I said, as we continually grew and expanded, we had before I could see it, we had a Charlie Company, and then before I know it, we had I think we had a Charlie Company, and then that's when we expanded and created 3rd Ranger Battalion. I think on the cusp, whenever Assassin or whenever ACO, BCO, and CCO were both just full to the brim, we sent CCO over to create 3rd Ranger Battalion, and the CCO had like four platoons, so they split 2 and 2 into a Charlie Company and a Delta Company over a 3rd Ranger Battalion. So at that point, we had officially became the 75th Ranger Regiment with 2nd Ranger Battalion and 3rd Ranger Battalion with me as the regiment commander. Time kept going on. The 2nd Ranger Battalion, 3rd Ranger Battalion, we're getting a good amount of people. And then I want to say, was it the beginning of this year? So January 2024, we started 1st Ranger Battalion. And so ever since then, we also... I think sometime actually we created 1st Ranger Battalion and our headquarters battalion the beginning of this year in January, and then also sometime in between, I forgot when, we started our Special Troops Battalion as well. Even though it is a little kind of iffy because it doesn't work how it is in real life, but our Green Berets, our 24th STS, our Air Force Attachment, and then our 160th SOAR are all over at the Special Troops Battalion. So the regiment now oversees 5 battalions, which did come as we expanded: 1st Ranger Battalion, 2nd Ranger Battalion, 3rd Ranger Battalion, Headquarters Battalion, and then our Special Troops Battalion. And like I said, over the past 2 years, it hasn't been easy. We've had losses here and there. We've had some people leave us, sadly, but I mean, just like the real life army machine, we got to keep on rolling no matter what. So over the past 2 years, our motto has just been just keep working, keep going, keep moving. Like I said, we have lost some people here and there, whether they just didn't want to do Milsim anymore or anything like that, but we've had to continually adapt and overcome and just keep operating as a regiment.
Yeah, I mean, that is really an outstanding story. I mean, definitely for any unit, I mean, like you said, for the actual Army, but certainly for any Milsim unit, I don't care what platform you're on, recruitment and retention is, it's a huge, problem, really, that needs to be addressed and maintained at all costs, or else, you risk losing all the hard work that you put into your unit. But the fact that 75th has been in business here for 2 years. You started as an understrength platoon, and now you're up running the equivalent of 5 battalions of troops through your Orbat here. I mean, it goes without saying you're doing something right here. This is a unique story. It's really kind of a special type of success, if you will, in the Milsim community. Just from what I've known, the people I've known, the units I've seen over the years, definitely you're doing something right here. And I think the level of detail that you've all talked about here speaks volumes in terms of some of the successful elements. So with that being said, tell us about how your training, your operations look like. I mean, obviously there are a number of Ranger Milsims out there. Arma is full of them. You really kind of sometimes have to look a little closely at each one to separate the bunch. But I mean, you're prominent, you're established, you've got great PR. But with that being said, what is it, other than what you've described here, that makes your unit unique in terms of these operations and these training events?
Yeah, I'll cover the broad topic of this, and then I'll pass it off to Lieutenant Colonel Ranger, because operations and training are his whole thing. But
Great.
I think the thing that really makes us what we are is the level of our operations. The way that we do our operations here is the max amount of people you can get in the server is 128 people. We can't do anything more than that, or hell, even anything more than 110, you're usually kind of looking at some problems. But the way that we currently do operations is the highest level we do it is at the company level. Every single company in 75th Ranger Regiment has their own private server. So every single infantry company in 1st Ranger Battalion, every single company in 2nd Ranger Battalion, every single company in 3rd, they all have their own independent company servers, and they do their operation at the company level or lower. So, like I said, one thing I'll broadly go over is our current rotation. In real life, the way that the battalions rotate through deployment is they do the whole 3-month thing. So a battalion will deploy for 3 months while another battalion is on red cycle and another battalion is on train-up. So we've tried to do that here without having the actual 3-month things, because 3-month in video game world is a super long time. The way we do it, we do 2-week rotations. And like I said, we have 3 infantry battalions. Our headquarters battalion and our special troops battalion gets attached to these battalions whenever they deploy, and they kind of go through their own rotations. But the 3 rotations we currently have at work are our red cycle tasking rotation, our train-up rotation, and then our deployment rotation. So one battalion is going to be on red cycle taskings during a 2-week rotation. So red cycle taskings is, admin work, recruiting, getting people trained up, all that good stuff, kind of just working on yourself. The regiment isn't going to have too many taskings for you because you just got off deployment. So once you're done with deployment, you'll go directly into that 2 weeks of red cycle, so where you're just focusing on yourself. We really tell the battalions, hey, squad and platoon level training, and then obviously recruitment, getting people back into the battalion as you need them. The next is the 2-week train-up period. So based on where your battalion is going to deploy, where regiment tells you you're going to deploy to, during that 2 weeks, you plan, you prepare, and you train for your deployment. So for instance, if I tell a battalion, hey, you're deploying to Fallujah, they're going to focus on some type of desert warfare based off of the environment and stuff like that, as well as obviously qualifications are a big thing around here. So weapons qualifications, getting as many people qualified on as many weapon systems as possible, as well as obviously vehicle qualifications. So getting in, some Humvees, JLTVs, whatever vehicles we have for that deployment that's specific to the battalion, getting qualified on using the weapon systems on these vehicles and stuff like that. And then as well as obviously live fires. We have to qualify our leadership in their positions. So we do squad live fires to qualify team and squad leaders in their positions. We do platoon live fires, which qualifies the platoon sergeant and platoon leaders in their positions. And then we also do these company live fires to qualify the company leadership as a whole for their deployment. And that's going to be that 2-week training period before their deployment. And then obviously there's the 2-week deployment period. And the 2-week deployment period, the way we've worked out is 24/7 operations. So for 2 weeks straight, anything can happen inside your company server. Whether you're online or not, something is always going on in the world. There's not going to be any crazy big attacks if you're not online, but the map is ever changing. Something could happen across the map where a terrorist cell activates a dirty bomb, blows up something, and affects the environment in some way, shape, or form. And you get online and you hear about it. You get a warning order. Hey, this happened, so prepare, put an operations order together for this operation. So the 2-week deployment period is very high op tempo. for a purpose, because you're going to be overworked, you're going to be wanting some time off, and obviously, like I said, once you're done with that 2-week deployment, wherever you're deployed to, boom, you're right back into that red cycle tasking, off, time off to where you can enjoy yourself. And like I said, the reason we do this is to get our Rangers, our personnel, into the same mindset that these Rangers would be in real life with the rotation they're currently on.
Yeah, that's pretty intense here, and I mean, just going over the level of detail that you put in your operations, your planning, your intelligence shop here. I can understand why you do that, because that's what it takes to make something as dynamic as this in these kind of 3 phase cycles work in perpetuity, into the future here, ongoing. So that is again pretty impressive, to put it lightly. Now,
I was gonna let Ranger. Ranger is the operations officer for the regiment. As well, obviously, if Captain Strider would want to talk on anything else as well, he's the operations officer for special troops. So
yeah, absolutely.
They have a little bit more info on kind of the more down to the ground stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more from S3, and any kind of unique memories, any kind of operational highlights that you guys might want to share with the audience here.
They got fucked on that one. Lieutenant Colonel Ranger, you got anything?
Yep. To build off of what the Colonel said, I'm all about structure, and as he mentioned before, without a foundational support, building falls. So what I bring basically to the table with my knowledge, operational planning and execution in the 75th Ranger Regiment, like many military units, follows a structured process that ensures mission success. And I can give you a brief overview, and I can emphasize the role of what S3 plays in that. We have our mission analyst, which is S3 section involvement. The S3 operations is heavily involved in this phase, analyzing the mission objectives, understanding the commander's intent, and evaluating available resources and constraints. We gather intelligence, terrain analyst, weather conditions, and all operational factors. We also have a course of action, COA, development, and the S3 is, in conjunction with other staff sections, develops multiple feasible and...
I think you cut out there for a second.
I did.
Can you go just tell them how the regiment S3 works with the battalion S3 shops? What kind of guidance we give to them?
Yeah, we S3 shop gives out the guidance, of course, on the commander's intent. Our guidance, or what I basically do, is I make sure that all the battalions have their proper warnos when they're issued. Make sure everything is in order. When they get set to push it out to their companies, I make sure I explain to them that you're going to be doing your op board and your planning prior to your deployment. Make sure you have all your asset commanders involved in the planning, so that way everybody knows exactly what their job is going to be during a deployment. Help out with the FDXs also, help them train up, get them ready for the deployment on if there's anything specific that needs to be done, any specific training. We'll set aside the time prior to a deployment, have the guys train up for that specific operation that needs to be initiated, especially if we have HVTs in a deployment that need to be captured because they have crucial and imperative intel. Make sure we train them up on that. So that's pretty much what I got.
Yeah, and then we got Captain Strider. He's the, like I said, operations officer for a special troops battalion. So he actually has an opportunity. He gets to work with basically every single battalion, depending on which of his personnel are attached for deployment. So he might have a little bit more insight onto the day-to-day activities during these battalions' deployments.
Yeah. So when it comes to their day-to-day deployments, especially, it's really all about mission sets. understanding doctrine and understanding, the basics of the basics. When it comes to the regular line platoon battalions, you got to have an S3 that is very creative, very understanding of those things. When it comes to STB, it is all about, because they're very much self-sufficient, and we're all assets. We're all, we got, like I said, 10th SFG, 24th, and 160th, and they all have their different mission sets. We help the line platoons with their, because we have TAC-Ps, we have PJs, we have special reconnaissance, etc. Right? But to delve into it not too much. We help with the structure and also the ability to perform certain operations. That's pretty much it. I'll keep it stupid simple. My only last thing I'll say about that is, like I said, I'll reiterate it. You got to be creative as a S3, and you got to be creative as a battle captain as well to understand and create these opportunities for these Rangers, because anything can happen in wartime, right? You might have multiple, counterattacks in one operation in one day. Operations will sometimes never go as planned. That's okay. It's all about adapting and overcoming. And we strive to make that a very, very strong impact and also ability in all the Rangers that we have, and airmen and pilots.
Well, definitely. When you reach this level of immersion, this kind of level of operations here, I mean, it goes without saying there are a lot of moving parts. Every person is a resource, like you said. You got to fit together with the other person. You got to multiply each other's capabilities and bring that force upon the enemy to make it all a success. But yeah, it's I'm always impressed. When I learn about units that are pulling off successful operations to this level, and you hear about the kind of work both up front on the line and then back at the HQ in the S shops. I gotta hand it to you here. You guys are really putting on some great things, and I've seen your media. I'm definitely going to put all the the links in the description here so that people get eyes on some visuals and get a deeper understanding of what all this looks like on the servers, because it is impressive, and I'm really glad to have you guys here to kind of unravel it all. So we've talked about the history of the unit, operations, your training environment. Generally speaking, what does the culture look like here? How's the camaraderie within the 75th Ranger Regiment?
We'll have Command Sergeant Major DocWallace go over the camaraderie.
So the camaraderie, in my personal experience, with the people that I've been working with here and things that I've seen at the lower level, it all starts, to me personally, the ability and the willingness to wanting to embrace like mentorship. And if you have these kind of cornerstones in place to be a good mentor, showing the ability to be able to be actively engaged, and it's more of we're showing empathy, and it means this isn't just your problem or my problem. This is our problem. This is how we approach everything together, because there's no I in team. Everybody has their own description and own personal definition of what camaraderie would be. But in regards to the junior enlisted, all the way up to the senior enlisted, however you want to call it, NCOs, and also our officers. I mean, it all starts at one point. I mean, all the officers were even, NCOs at one point. They get to know people, they get to meet people. This is how they get to understand what each person brings to their tables and their mission sets and their teams. That's how they get to know each other on a personal level, sometimes. And you'd be surprised what some of these guys can pull together once they get that first hands-on experience with one another. Then it just kind of, it sets the tone.
Now, I know you guys are serious. You're immersive. You take realism, to the next level. But I gotta ask: anybody got a funny memory, an unexpected moment that occurred during a training event or even an operation?
Yes, I don't mind filling in here for this. So, we had an operation, and Ranger can even kind of fill in on this as well, because this was one of our operations back in the day when we did ACO. It was one of them, uh-oh moments. So we were at the end of our FTX, and it was a night operation. And, of course, we the infantryman part of it, the 11 Bravo perspective of it, we basically got it done, our mission set. So commander called in for helicopter extract, at the time that these were our night stalkers is what they were called, and we were wanting to extract the area by helicopter. So we throw green smokes down, and all of a sudden we see them coming, and then we just kind of look up over the air, and they just kind of kept on going. I said that, they went to the next town over. I don't know if it was because they read the grid coordinate wrong or didn't see the smoke, but I told my commander, I said, hey man, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen, never seen that happen before.
Well, the confusion of the battlefield, that fog of war, what can you say? But, I mean, that's pretty cool, because, that's the thing. People who are dedicated and hardcore into Milsim, they want that kind of full throttle experience. But if you don't have the community to back it up, it's not as much fun as it could be. Like you were talking about, just soldiers being there during the good and the bad, backing each other up, NCOs taking care of their junior enlisted. It really does take community. Leadership and community is probably the single biggest factor in terms of a successful Milsim unit, in the Armorverse and beyond that. So, we talked about those many working parts here a moment ago. It goes beyond the operations. It goes into the people themselves and the community that they build with each other. So outstanding again. Now,
if I may,
yeah, go ahead.
With the community, the camaraderie portion. We strive to make this a community open for everyone, not just men, not just women, just whatever you may identify as. Like, I feel some women don't want to come around this community because they feel like it's a male-dominated community, but it's not the case. We're open and inclusive to everyone. How do you think I became a CSM? How do you think I became a captain? This community, it gives you back as much as you give into it. If someone is saying something, someone is doing something to you, we have that side of the community that can step in and be like, hey, we're here for you. We don't see you as that way. We don't see you as this way. This community is open. We kind of get rid of the bad side of it, the bad side of people. We don't tolerate it.
Yeah, so you bring out the best in your soldiers here. I appreciate that, Captain. And again, it's one of those traits that really makes a difference here. So you heard it right from the captain here. I know Milsim, it's got, there are the stereotypes, there are the memes, some of the kind of presuppositions, the expectations that people have. But take it upon yourself, learn more, hear it firsthand from the soldiers in the unit. And right here, you heard about just the openness, the kind of cooperation, the teamwork, and the ethic that the 75th have here in their community. So good stuff. Now, with that being said, let me ask, how do you interact with the broader Milsim community? Like I said, earlier while we were talking, Milsim Units now has over 300 units on the website, on the Discord. There are a lot of players out there, a lot of communities. So, what does your role look like in the greater Milsim universe?
Yeah, I'll take over for this one. Pretty simple. We're at the point that we're at. We really want to help the community out as much as possible. One of the ways we do that is we have a completely separate Discord that we have all our allies you kind of integrate into, and we work with them in there. At the end of every month, we usually try to get a meeting going with all our allied units as well, kind of just talk over community things as well. One thing that we like to do, luckily, we have 3 pretty popular public servers in the game that I think we have anywhere between 1,000 to a couple thousand people playing on our public servers every day. So we have the ability to bring a lot of people to our public servers, and one of the ways that we repay our allies for being allied with us is we let them recruit in our public servers. A lot of other units out there, a little bit stingy, but we think it's a good idea to let our allied units enjoy some of this the surplus personnel as well, because who knows, we might not always be the unit that you're looking for. So we like to give our allies the ability to come into our public servers and recruit. Get yourself some personnel as well, so that way we're not the only ones expanding. Our allies are joining as well, so are enjoying the wealth of the recruits as well. That's one thing we like to do. Is another thing as well that we do for some smaller units out there is a lot of times some of these units just need help with getting to kind of where they need to be. One thing that we've done a couple times is units have merged with us temporarily for a month, 2 months, 3 months sometimes to kind of get on their feet and get where they need to be. A lot of these units kind of start out and they maybe can't get their footing and they don't really know what to do. Maybe they have 10, 15, 20, 30 people and they don't know how to get to that next level. They don't know how to get out of platoon or company operations up to the next level. And one thing that we provided to multiple units is they've merged into our unit to the 75th for a month, 2 months, 3 months at the most. And they kind of get what we do. They see how we operate, they see how we train, they see how we do things, and they learn how to do it. So usually sometimes, like I said, they'll maybe do it for a month, 2 months at most, 3 times at the greatest, and they'll come in maybe as a platoon. Maybe they have 20, 30 people, and I'm like, hey, listen, for this temporary merger, maybe sometimes, because I've had to do this before, a dude will be like, hey, I have 30 people and I'm a colonel, and I'm like, okay, well, listen, here's what's going to happen. You're going to come in, you have 30 guys, you're going to be a first lieutenant, you're going to be a platoon leader. That's what needs to happen, and we help them. We give them the structure they need, the training, the kind of the camaraderie they're looking for, and before you know it, they're operating. They get some people because, like I said, we have a huge recruitment system, and they get some people from that, and they grow from the 30. Hell, they have 40, 50 people in their platoon, and before you know it, hey, we're good to go. I appreciate the help, and they go off and they go back and stand their unit back up. And like I said, we've had both ways happen. We've had people that have come in and have merged permanently, but we've also had people that are, hey, come work with us for a month or two, run as a platoon for a month or two, get on your feet, get where you need to be, kind of take in what we teach you, and then once you have some personnel, some people, and you guys are good to go, take off and go get your unit back where it needs to be based off the stuff we've taught you. So we've done, like I said, that as well as obviously the allowing allies to recruit in our public service.
So you don't have anything to prove to anybody. You're using your strength to set an example that others can learn from and grow upon. So that's a rarity, like you said. A lot of units they wouldn't be so amenable to open recruiting on their servers. But like I said, you got nothing to prove to anybody.
Yeah, I mean, we could have our allies and then tell them no, you can recruit, and we could sit on top of our castle and tell everyone we're the best ever. But it doesn't mean anything if other units out there can't be like, hey, well, these guys let us recruit on their public service. So they're not in it for themselves. So we could do that, but we're actually here. We want to help other units expand and become greater.
Yeah, it really is better for everybody, better for the entire community, and that boils down to the individual player. Getting a better experience, more varied opportunities, and just a healthier community overall. We definitely need more of that online and beyond. Now, you're 2 years up as a unit here in the 75th. Let's talk about the future. Where do you guys see yourself in the next year? By this time, 2025, what are the 75th Rangers going to look like?
Obviously, the main goal at the end of the day is I would love to have all my battalions full. So that would have 1st, 2nd, 3rd infantry or ranger battalions. I would want them to have 4 infantry companies each. Maybe 3 infantry companies in a headquarters company or whatever. And then obviously my headquarters battalion and my special troops battalion just doing amazing as well. A year from now, maybe a year and a half, 2 years at the most, we would want to see ourselves expand and not just represent the 75th, We do have aspirations to take over the entire command of USASOC, which would be United States Army Special Operations Command, and 75th would be a portion of that. And like I said, that is the next step in our evolution. So we'd still have the 75th Ranger Regiment, and that would be our main unit basically. But then we'd, like I said, we'd branch out. We would have SFOD, Special Forces Operation Detachment, Delta probably. We'd have our Green Berets. 160th, instead of them being bunched into one small battalion, they would have their own units, and like I said, it would be a much higher command responsibility over the entire unit. And like that's we would hope to be there by a year. Realistically, we'd probably be there in a year and a half, 2 years, depending on how things go.
That's a very interesting goal. Yeah, definitely you'd give some of your smaller detachments here more room to grow, more opportunity for just being immersive and authentic in their own rights. But that would be quite a development for the storylines operationally. You were talking about running company level ops on servers, but again, with the level of detail and immersion in the storylines here, you could really go wild in terms of all kinds of global conflict if you were to get USASOC up and running on that level. That would be something to see.
At the end of the day, it's always going to be company level operations or smaller, because that's just what the servers can handle. For like I said, the max we have here is 128 players, and that's a small size company, but that's realistically the most these servers on Reforger can do.
Sure, but when you think about it in real life, with the Army using more or less battalion level, detachments to accomplish major, tactical and kind of minor strategic level goals there. I mean, that's just how it is, realistically, however angle you're attacking the problem from. But still, yeah, that level of storyline and that development, it's not something you see. It's one thing if you got a handful of buddies that you're playing, with, playing your own missions on the weekends. But this is the hardcore Milsim right here for sure. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
if we could have servers with 300-400 people in it and to be stable, trust me, we would be doing battalion operations. But the game just isn't there yet.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. We'll see what happens with Arma 4. We got our hopes up, but we gotta give Bohemia a little more time to sort that out. But yeah, we'll see. Now, that leads to my next question here. What do you think about the evolution of Milsim overall? We talked about the 75th in a year. Where do you think the games, the community, where do you think the experiences are going to go here, in the near future? And with that being said, we got your battle plan for 2025. How do you see yourself fitting in a developing community here going forward?
I've definitely got some hopes, and like I said, because a year from now it'll be 2025, about to be 2026, really. So I mean, I've got hopes. I know that Reforger is going to continue to be a stable basis for us to be on, at least until Arma 4 releases. But I just think that the community colliding into one once Arma 4 comes out is going to be a little iffy. I do have some concerns about that, but we're ready to face that stuff full front once it does happen. But like I said, we have plenty of time to plan and prepare and make stuff happen for that.
Sure. Yeah, the future's wide open. Nothing's set in stone yet. So for a lot of us, I think just about all of us, we got to play it, month by month, kind of quarter by quarter until all the pieces of the puzzle come together. But yeah, another year, coming in end of 2025, beginning of 26 here. It's going to be. I'm optimistic. I think it's going to be some really cool things coming down the pike here.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, we talked about some humorous aspects of the 75th here. Let me talk about something a little more. I don't know. I don't want to call it personal, but are there any traditions, any rituals that are unique to the 75th, or any of your elements here that you can share with us?
Yeah, I can have Captain Strider go over Ranger School, which is one of our longest traditions here at the 75th.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Ranger School is our leadership school, obviously. Now, IRL, I'm pretty sure it's 62 or 64 weeks. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna short it up to 3 days. And it's a 3-day course that is basically in their control. It's in their hands. The timing on the training is completely up to them. When it comes to traditional wise, I would say the way the instructors are and the way of how we have been building it and doing it so far has just been, everyone has gone through it. Everyone has almost a similar or same stories at times. And they're like, oh man, when we were attacking this objective, we went this way rather than this way. And they can now go back and they can say, oh my gosh, I should have done this going back to this. And ooh, man, our group went here and we got whacked or whatever. When we went this way, we did a really good job. Like it's a really good school for people to come in and learn and also hone on their basics, their battle drills, all of basic infantry stuff. If they have something when it comes to their MOS, we ask them grueling questions regarding their MOS. So it's not just all about infantry. We try to make it as much as possible for everyone. So if you're a pilot, I'm gonna be asking pilot questions. If you're 68 whiskey, I'm gonna be asking some 68 whiskey questions, and I'm gonna try to pick your brain.
Yeah, the thing about Ranger School, we've been doing Ranger School almost as long as we've been a unit here, so probably almost 2 years. And I used to be I was the OSU for the school for the longest time, and I recently only just passed the torch of the school over here to Captain Strider to run. The thing I think that makes it what it is just the way that we were able to instruct and the way that we're able to induce stress on personnel. I don't know about you, but there's not many games out there that I can be stressed out on, and basically every single person that's ever gone through Ranger School here has been stressed at one point or another. The rank doesn't matter. You could be a major, a lieutenant colonel, and you are the same fucking pool as a private at Ranger School. There's no more ranks. There's platoon leaders, platoon sergeants all the way down, but still, rank no longer exists at this Ranger School. It's all about being a ranger, being able to convey and control orders. And I think we could have Command Sergeant Major DocWallace here actually go over a little bit. He only just recently, not recently, but I think it was probably 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, just got his Ranger tab here in the unit. He can kind of explain kind of his 2 cents on what he experienced.
All right.
Wallace, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
There we go.
All right, so first things first, the very first Ranger school I actually attended was back when I was a PFC, and of course I failed out of that one because when we didn't quite meet our ruck march on time, right? So the second time I went was when the Command Sergeant Major of the regiment, right? So obviously I have a lot on my shoulders. I was stressed out, I ain't gonna lie to you, because you gotta remember, these guys are the guys below me, of course. They're all rooting for me, saying you can do it, you can do this, you can do that, you know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, I'm also trying to represent the unit as a whole, and if I fail out of it, the pressure's on, right? So I got to learn different perspectives from experiences that as I told you earlier, I was never a squad leader and I was never a platoon sergeant. I got to learn these things in Ranger School because I fulfilled these roles, and by being in these roles, it gave me a better understanding on what these guys do. I mean, this was just one day. A lot of the guys here in the unit do this every single day, every night, when they go out and do their trainings, when they go out and do their operations. Then at that point, I became more humbled. I have a wider range, more of respect of what these guys do, because the guys, the platoon sergeants, platoon leaders, squad leaders, those are the guys are the real deal, real bread and butter. Your first line supervisors, they literally have the hardest job in this unit.
Yeah, I can definitely respect that. And I appreciate you giving several of you giving your feedback here on Ranger School, because really, I mean, that's when you think about it, when people think of Rangers, they think about the tab. And a lot of players, I mean, obviously, a lot of Milsimmers in particular, they want to get that experience, not just going through RAS, but going through the school and getting tabbed there. So, yeah, just talking about how you guys made it through, how you had to learn, really bring your best there, hone those basics and, kind of set the example for the rest of the team to follow through on.
If I may, one more little thing.
Yeah.
There,
go ahead, please.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
If you want to know how long it took me to get that tab, it took me 18 hours total, a little over 18 hours total within the 3 days. That's how long it took.
Yeah, that's dedication right there.
We focus on the 3 fundamentals of how Ranger School is in real life. The first time you're doing the binning phase, you're doing the more phase, whatever they want to call it now, and that's we're kind of beating it into them, letting them know like the main thing we focus on to day 1 is uniform. Hey, Reaper, and you get 40, 50, 60 individuals. You tell, hey, you all need to be wearing exactly this, and this one guy's got the wrong eye pro on. This one dude's got the wrong boots on, and it's just we beat into them on day 1 uniformity, and then day 2 mountain phase. Main focus mountain warfare, but it's also accountability. Like I said, you get 40, 50, 60 people, and you try to be accountable for every single one of them. That starts to become hard because, like I said, you got a whole platoon of people or a plus size platoon of people, and you go, hey, how many casualties does this squad have? And you need accurate ACE reports and stuff like that. And then, like I said, day 3 is that culminating event. So we've had days go from. I've had short days that maybe are 4 hours on the shortest, and then I've also had long days where it's 12 hours from start to finish. It just you got to get this done, and you guys aren't complete. You guys can't get off until you guys complete the task. We've had people constantly recycle patrols and different objectives and stuff because they couldn't get accountability, they couldn't get uniformity, they couldn't communicate and all that stuff. So we've been, like I said, I think that's by far one of the biggest traditions we've had, and it affects people a lot here in the unit because becoming an officer in the regiment, it's super hard if you don't have your Ranger tab here. Like we try to enforce it on the officers as much as possible. Like someone gets put in for promotion for an officer, hey, does this person have their Ranger tab? Oh, they don't. Well, why don't they have their Ranger tab? Stuff like that. So it's a big thing that actually affects people's promotions and stuff here.
Yep. Well, as they say, not for the weak or faint-hearted. Definitely. But that's pretty cool. One of the more unique and kind of I guess special aspects of running a Ranger Milsim at this level. Now, I got to ask you guys. I'm sure we got quite a few fans of war movies here. There've been some great ones coming out of Hollywood from around the world over the years. If you were going to look at the 75th Ranger Regiment and pick a movie that you think best captures the spirit or the experience here of this Milsim, which movie would that be?
For me, I don't want to be generic and say Black Hawk Down, so I'm going to say The Hornet's Nest. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a documentary, and it's got I think it's either first or second Ranger Battalion, one of their deployments to Afghanistan. And that's a really, like I said, I know it's a documentary, but it's still it's one of the amazing movies that I like to watch. And besides that, Saving Private Ryan. The thing about Saving Private Ryan that gets me, obviously, it's 2nd Ranger Battalion. And it's just the camaraderie that these guys have between each other, and we try to preach that on our guys as much as possible. You can find dudes doing watch parties, watching movies all the time in their own companies. The way our Discords work is each battalion has their own Discord, and then each company will have their own category where some of these guys get in for 60, 70, 80 man VCs and do watch parties some weekends and stuff like that. Watch a movie and all that fun stuff and get together and do some real fun stuff. So I feel like I said, it's a mix between the Hornet's Nest and Saving Private Ryan, because the Hornet's Nest shows that realistic side of war and what things are like whenever you're out there and whenever these guys are actually in the shit. But then also the Saving Private Ryan stuff, it does still show that realistic side, but it more or less shows that camaraderie that a lot of these people have for each other. And hell, I think one of my most favorite stories of camaraderie that I can tell in this unit is I think it was in 3rd Battalion, one of our companies in 3rd Battalion. one of their dudes was like having trouble making rent or something, and he was scared he wasn't going to be able to pay for rent for his buddy. So the entire company pitched him and helped pay his rent for the for that 1 month and helped to get him back on his feet and stuff like that. So stuff like that, man, I love seeing the camaraderie and stuff within this unit.
Yeah, that's great. That's something unique right there. You gave some solid titles for sure. I remember seeing there was a reaction or review video on Hornet's Nest on YouTube that was recommended to me, but I haven't seen the doc and I didn't see the review. But I'm gonna have to look that up because I don't know. I just the GWAT and what the Rangers did in Afghanistan. I mean, they went through hell and back. So I definitely want to check that out. I gotta look that up. All right. Well, it's been a great podcast here. Like I said, we got a lot of the HQ element here, giving us the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts of the 75th here. Before we wrap up the podcast, though, ladies and gents, I want to get a couple of closing thoughts from you. Now, if there is, we went over a lot here tonight, but if there's one thing that we haven't discussed yet that you would want anybody in the audience to know about the 75th, what would it be? What do you want them to realize about your unit?
One thing for me, then I'll pass it off whoever wants to talk. And this isn't just the 75th. This is just Milsim in general. Whether you've done Milsim or not, I really suggest doing it, because at the end of the day, a lot of gamers do Milsim whether they know it or not. You're playing Call of Duty. Call of Duty is a Milsim game. It's a military simulation game. You're simulating being in the military. Most of the Call of Duties, whether you're multiplayer, campaign, whatever. There's so many games out here that are Milsim without people noticing it, and I think it's something that a lot of people should try. Not the 75th might not be for everyone, but if you do want to try the 75th out, I definitely do suggest it. And like I said, I'm the CEO of the unit, so obviously, of course, I'm going to suggest it. But even though some people are scared of larger units because they feel like if they join a larger unit, they're going to have less of an impact, I can promise you that's not a thing. We have people here that like I said, obviously, sadly, I don't get to know every single person here in my unit, but there are the ones that stand out, the people that really do make an impact. We had just the other day, I think one of our E5s, we had an E5 sergeant, and for this entire month, for the month of November, he recruited 43, 44 people in 1 month, and like stuff like that. Like you can do things, and you can show out, and like just because you're one person in a large machine doesn't mean you're not going to be recognized. And like I said, every single platoon, every single squad, platoon, company here is its own family. It's its own internal unit at the end of the day, and so it scares some people away, and I tell people, hey, give it a try. It takes 3 hours to go through a Ranger Assessment Selection Program, and boom, from there you go to the unit and you become a part of the family here. And like that's one thing that I've always been stressing on my junior officers, my junior NCO Corps, is yes, we're Milsim at the end of the day, but if you don't make your squad, your platoon, a family, like if you guys don't have fun with each other, then people aren't going to want to stick around. And I think that's one of the main things that makes us as successful as we are, is because I tell these people they understand that they have to make it fun. Obviously, we need to do our job at the end of the day. We need to simulate the 75th Ranger Regiment, whatever battalion you are, and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we need to make it a fun and cool environment for whenever we aren't doing those things. So that's what I have.
Yep, there's definitely a balance to be had there. So I appreciate that for sure. All right.
Anyone else got anything about that?
Yeah, let me hear it.
Yeah, I'll actually say something really quick. I just want to touch up on a few things regarding something that Brewer said as well. When it comes to our allies go on deployments with us as well. They work hand in hand with us, and we work with their mission sets as well. So just because they're in the pubs all the time, we'll have them come into our deployments, and we'll run everything with them. And I think that just builds a very good cohesion between the inside of the community, especially because then it's like, hey, these guys, they're doing something right, or hey, these guys, they're doing it the way that we thought that we've never seen before. So let's keep doing it with them. That is something that's really, really important, especially. And then my last thing is I'll touch up on the same thing that that Brewer said as well, is when it comes to these groups of people, there's a lot of people who are completely and utterly they're just playing at home. They play single player. They don't do anything by themselves or whatever. I totally suggest some people you get into a milsim because it opens up your ability to communicate with people. It opens up your enjoyment, and you just create and meet great people. It's amazing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, I can't explain how amazing a lot of these people are that I've met with their real experience. You know, because even if I had a hard time, I could be able to go and talk to them and say, hey, look, I'm struggling. Can you talk to me? And it's literally like I'm talking to another buddy. It's awesome.
That's some great insight. Yeah, definitely. Now, with that being said, how can listeners get involved with the 75th here? Where can they find you guys?
Our link tree directs directly to our public hub. We have a whole Discord dedicated to our public servers and people getting recruited. So it's a GG/75th hub, but it's also in our link tree.
Excellent.
All you gotta do is join our Discord and just say, "Hey, I'm here to join," and someone will help you. We have recruiters in North America, Europe, Australia, all across the world. So any time zone, we can help anybody out.
Wow, all right, you got some coverage. So definitely, I'll put in the Linktree, Discord, and other links in the video description here. Again, ladies and gents, I really appreciate the time going through, the history of the 75th, your experiences in the unit, and just your vision, your hopes, and all the the kind of positive community development that you guys are doing here. In Reforger and in the greater Milsim universe. So I want to thank Colonel Brewer, Colonel ThaChosen, Lieutenant Colonel Ranger, Major Doom, Captain Efrideet, Captain Strider, and Command Sergeant Major DocWallace again for all your insights and experiences here. This is going to be it for this Milsim Units podcast, ladies and gentlemen, but we will be back here very shortly. We got some more podcasts in the works that will get up online here in the next couple of weeks. Until then, this is C. Brock signing out.